All right, good afternoon. I'm Katie. I'm the general manager at ADAC. Thank you all for being here to weather the storms for our last presentation of Discover ADAC. We've had such a fun week. I see a lot of faces that have been with us all week, and thank you so much. Well, once again, I'm not going to remind you to get a copy of the event guide because you already have that. But I do want to remind you that we have this last presentation, and we want to see all the fun you're having on social media. So our handle is at ADAC Atlanta, and we're using the hashtag Discover ADAC, and all of our speaker and media partner and showroom handles are also in here. So take lots of pictures, make sure you tag us so we can share it on our social media and show how much fun we're having this week. I want to thank Tim Hobby and his team at HA Modern who brought us our stage decor. Of course, HA Modern has a showroom here at ADAC on the 4th floor, but the product is from all over ADAC. So if you want to know where any of these pieces are from, just check out the resource guide in the back of our presentation room. There's also magazines back there, so pick up copies of the magazines. And with that, I also want to thank our media sponsor today. That's Modern Luxury Interiors and the Atlantan. And our showroom sponsor today is Renaissance Tile and Bath. And don't forget, after this presentation, we are going to go over to Suite C3B. That's at ADAC West. And I know it's raining, but I think we might have some umbrellas to help all of us get over there, so you can still come join us because we're going to have lots of fun over at ADAC West. I bet there's cocktails, and we all need that, right? And with that, I'm going to turn things over to publisher and BFF of mine, Jenna Muller.
Hey y'all, how are you? Welcome. Thank you for coming to enjoy Music City Muses, Southern Design Renaissance. This whole idea came about because Modern Luxury is about to launch into our 24th market, which is Nashville. So I'm Jenna Muller. I am the publisher of Modern Luxury Interiors Atlanta. I been with the company for 12 years. I launched Interiors Atlanta 10 years ago when I was 15, obviously. And we now have 12 interiors titles across Modern Luxury's national platform, and Nashville will join the 65 plus brands of Modern Luxury. This coming Monday is our big Nashville party, so this all just follows suit, and we are so excited to be here with these two incredible Nashville-based interior designers. I do want to give a huge thank you to Renaissance Tile and Bath, who are going to throw us a little Southern soiree after this. Mm-hmm. Katie, huge thank you to you, Terry, Mackenzie, the whole ADAC team. You always give us the most incredible platform to reach the design community, and we are so excited to share this news about Nashville, and there is more announcements coming, so stay tuned on Nashville, because we're going to join the party there, you guys. It's a lot going on. It's changed. As the influence of the Southeast design continues to grow, all eyes are on this big city. We're delighted to have you all here and share this fun day with us. And it's raining, but we're gonna have a good time, guys. As we gather today, we find ourselves in an exciting crossroads in the world of interior design. The Southeast, long known for the rich culture, heritage, and timeless elegance, is increasingly influencing the broader design landscape within the vibrant region of Nashville. Has emerged as a key player, no longer just a city of music, but thriving epicenter of creativity and style. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you guys to Natalie Hager and Brad Ramsey. Going to give you a short little blurb on them, and then I'm going to open the floor for them to tell you a little about themselves. Natalie brings a passion for storytelling through, there we go. Creating interiors that are not just beautiful, but also deeply personal and reflective of your clients' unique narratives. Tell us how long you've been doing this. Probably not long like me. Started when you were 15.
I started when I was 15.
Obviously.
Yes. No, I moved to Nashville in 2001, went there for school, went to Vanderbilt, was not an interior designer, did not have that on my radar. But I loved the city, and I stayed every summer when I was there. I'm actually from Atlanta, from East Cobb, but loved Nashville. I was a writing major, actually, and a French major, and learned about storytelling. And then I actually left Nashville, went up to New York for design school after I graduated, and just kind of kept that storytelling as a part of my work. And can't really design something without this kind of concept storytelling piece, and so it's kind of stuck around. And I've started my business in 2009, and
Great year.
yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly.
Pivot.
It was a pivot. It was, and that's kind of how it launched my career. People were not hiring. I moved to Nashville from St. Louis, actually got married, moved back. It was the recession. No one was hiring. Everybody was like, that I was interviewing with was like, why don't you just start something on your own? So I did.
Amazing.
And yeah, it was a great way to start, actually.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, next, y'all, just bear with me. I'm never in charge like this, so things can get wild. Known for his impeccable attention to detail and his ability to create spaces that balance comfort with sophistication, Brad has been a driving force in Nashville's evolving design scene. You want to tell us a little bit about
Big
you?
words.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so I moved to Nashville in '99, so I've been there 25 years. I actually went there from University of Georgia. I also grew up in East Cobb. We had a little reunion
Yeah, we did.
here, all
did.
Marietta people. But I moved up there. I went to University of Georgia, and I transferred to Belmont University, and I actually got a degree in music. And I was there to songwrite and do music.
Songwriter, okay. Can you sing? You wanna
I am
about
not
that?
singing on
Okay.
stage right now. You got to be in practice. I'm not in practice. But had the opportunity through several different career changes to work at a design firm for 6 years, project manager, work my way up. And then I launched my design firm just shy of 12 years ago. So we, I can tell you more about our story.
Well,
You know,
we're gonna
started
get
as just
into
me in my basement, you know, and eventually growing into the firm that we are today. So
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited to dive in. So let's dust our boots off, guys, and get into some fun. The influence of Southern tradition. We're going to get down to business and hear from these incredible designers. You may notice that there's one missing, but he couldn't get on his flight due to apparently there's a hurricane coming.
Weather.
I don't know.
which is a shame because he's such a lovely person.
He is.
So.
We would have
And if he
real
wore
cozy,
navy
real
and
cozy up
black,
here.
then we would have been a
We
thing.
would have been a thing. I know it, right? No more cowboy boots, right? No. I love it.
judge. Don't
no, I
judge.
love the cowboy boots.
Full theme. Got to go full theme.
You do
Full
it.
theme. How do you guys think Southern design elements inspire your work? I mean, being there and seeing the entire city just transform. I mean, you guys started your brands and companies before it was a cool place to go on bachelorette parties and
Yeah.
girls' trips and all the things. How do you think you utilize that Southern design into all your projects, but not make it so Nashville-y?
On the nose.
Yeah.
You know, I was thinking about it when we got a chance to preview some of the questions, and I don't necessarily, my mom's from Philadelphia, so I kind of grew up in the South thinking, I'm not Southern. When we had, you know, baked chicken and steamed vegetables, we didn't have boiled and fried, but I went to my friends' houses for that. But there's something in the South that's intrinsic to welcome and to creating a space to invite people into your home to entertain. And I think that there's an essence to like very welcoming comfort in our design that even if we're elevating it to something that is more modern, more sophisticated, everybody wants the home to feel welcoming. Right. And so to me, that's where my Southern roots come from, you know, taking etiquette classes and learning to open the door for people. It's just, it's about...
Chivalry is not dead.
It's not dead.
Love it.
But it's about establishing a welcome that is very tangible for people, I think.
Yep. And you'll get to see these beautiful projects that throughout this. And it's hard because in Atlanta and in the South, when you think modern, like we have an Interiors California, and they are straight modern lines. And it's hard to say that we're modern luxury, but there's a way to soften that. And I think you guys do an impeccable job about
Thanks.
pulling in the Southern touches, but still leaving it modern, transitional. I know that's not a design word that everyone likes to use, but the soft touches and the textures that you guys bring in is just beautiful. This is one of your projects that's up on the screen. You want to tell us a little about it?
Yeah, sure. So this project, I think, well, it was actually somebody who was born in Nashville, so kind of brought some southernness to it, but also kind of traveled around the world, and there is a lot of Japanese influence in here. So his wife, she lived in Japan. That's kind of where they fell in love, and so this is kind of a wabi-sabi theme, I feel like. But what I think is Southern about this home is you can't tell totally from this picture, but it really does open up to the outside. And I think it's in a neighborhood that is very, I would say, pretty traditional, yet the outside does feel modern. And so I think a couple of ways that we brought in that Southern style are by welcoming the interiors and the landscape and kind of the farmland in, and also keeping the architecture somewhat warm and not too stark. Because I think we'll probably talk about it more, but as Nashville's growing, there are a lot of parts of the city, as Atlanta has probably experienced too, where you get these really stark, unwelcoming homes that developers are bringing in just and not thinking so much about it. So I think to keep it warm, you know, the materials, bringing in wood and leather and natural things that are found in nature are really important. So yeah.
Beautiful. In the design world, people often correlate Southern design with very traditional aesthetics. All three, or two of you, sorry, Evan, have a modern approach to Southern design, keeping true to classics, but with that perfect modern touch like we just talked about. Are there particular Southern materials, motifs, or architecture elements that you consistently draw upon?
Yeah, we talked about this for a second, and I think there's not necessarily like a checklist that we go through. I think sometimes the motifs for me are found in fabrics. Depending on the client, you can see what types of patterns they like, and so, you know, one might be a little more floral, or might have like a color blocking, or maybe plaid. Some of these kind of more traditional twists. So I'll see that somewhat in fabrics. Again, like the architecture, I think is important to talk about. I think we like to look at the exterior and the interior architecture and bring in some of those more Southern elements, large windows that go to the floor, big doors that open up to the outside, things like that, not that they don't happen in other markets, but I think they're traditionally more Southern.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an essence of wanting to entertain inside outside. And so almost every project that we're on, we're talking about the flow from inside to outside. You know, I think anybody that works in the industry knows that exterior furniture is becoming more similar to your interior furniture in the feel, the texture, the look. So we can really create that consistent flow. But I also think about in the South, maybe history and things that have been passed down through your family are important. And so to infuse like found moments, even in a modern space, I think that you lose character in a space if everything's brand new and everything has no story to it. And so whether it's an antique that we find or an antique that's been passed down to you or a one of a kind, bringing things with story into a more modern space gives it a little bit more grounding.
And I think just watching Nashville grow so much, do you do ground up, or is it going in and rebuilding good bones? Or is it like you see spec houses and you're like, okay, I got to go in and refresh the whole thing? I pulled both of these projects. Left is Brad's and the right is Natalie's. Still color, love it. But like, they're just so simple and chic, but farmhouse kitchen, right? So do you see that you're going in and gutting it, or just adding to what's already there in Nashville homes?
Gosh.
I mean, I'll speak to our firm. We've been able to kind of fully immerse ourselves in ground-up builds or in full gut remodels. So it's not very often that we are taking on decisions by other people in the interior of the space that we have to then reimagine. walk in and say, can we get rid of all the lighting? You know? So we're getting to put our fingerprints on it from the beginning all the way through.
Nice.
And I think that when we're talking about the renaissance of Nashville, for those of us who've been doing design in Nashville for over a decade, really what that has allowed us to do is say no to, hey, we want to furnish our kitchen and our living room, and really take on projects, if we want to, if it's our skill set, that allow us to really imagine from architecture all the way through, all the interior architecture, all the finishes. And that's what I love. I love being able to really kind of find the through line in the design and make sure it's consistent from start to finish.
Yeah, I would kind of piggyback on that. You know, we've been very blessed with a boom, not only because of post-COVID, but then just Nashville in general. And I think in the design world, we've been able to say no, again, to those projects. And I feel like our niche really in the Nashville market has been more in ground-up new constructions. I love renovations. I personally could not build my own home. I had to renovate it. So, you know, we do get into that realm, but I do think we want to touch, as Brad said, just kind of every thread to make it cohesive and be able to tell a story from start to finish. And so I love new constructions. Probably I love renovations, but probably more new construction just because it is a more...
The unknowns are not there.
I know, it's like a
What's going to be
methodic
behind this wall?
process.
Yeah.
Yeah, new constructions are just, more predictable, so.
Well, we just mentioned the Nashville rapid growth. Obviously, you guys have seen it, and you're like, what is everyone doing in our city? What challenges and opportunities are arising from Nashville's recent growth that you've seen over the past 10, 15 years? How do you adapt as people, I mean, just like Atlanta, probably people are coming in, they see either they're starting their businesses or they're moving their families there because you get a lot more space. There's a project I think I saw on your website, the backyard. I was just like, oh, I could live there. There's so much more space,
There is
right?
Right,
It's definitely like the New Yorkers come down, they're like, I can have all of this,
it's true.
right? So what do you see is the one thing that really draws people to, A, afford the caliber of y'all's work, but what's their big draw to Nashville? Besides the neon lights.
Yeah.
Right.
It's funny, I joke sometimes. We've got some wonderful clients that come to Nashville, and there's something about the warm welcome, the feel of the city that they love, and then they say, I want all of that in my home. I want reclaimed barnwood and this and that. And we're like, no, you don't. Like, we are done with that look. But there's this feeling that's like, if I go there, I want the Nashville look. And those of us in design are going, we're trying to push the Nashville look forward into really quality work. And, you know, when you get people that you have a good rapport with them, they listen. They understand we're going to bring the natural elements and the things that you're attracted to into your design, but we're not going to go back to what's been done, you know. I think that's one of the challenges, is just people move there and they think there's a look that they have to have.
Right.
And we're trying to redefine that.
Right.
I like it.
Yeah.
You can tell it in your work. Like, this is your project up here.
Yeah.
And you can see the touches of wood.
Sure.
But it's still warm, even though it's white and airy.
Right. I think, this house was really tall ceilings. And so it was really important. You can't quite see it in here, but we put some wood trestles in there, some cedar wood trestles. And I think it's important that there's that warmth and just, I think it reflects, I think what draws people to Nashville initially, what drew me to Nashville was school, but what made me want to stay were the people. And I think that New Yorkers, folks from Chicago and the West Coast, even folks from Atlanta can attest to when you've been to Nashville, there's just a hospitality.
Southern
People are really genuine, and I think that's what I go to in my work, is I want it to feel authentic and genuine. And I think people can get a lot more. And so that's one of the things that draws them to Nashville initially, but I think what makes them stay are the people.
It's also a fun city, so there's a lighthearted joy to people there, I think, and that's what makes a lot of people stay. But you were referring to the space. We still have a lot of land. I mean, it's rare to do a project that's under 10,000 square feet. And so well, I'm not doing a lot of like lofts downtown or anything like that. So we're doing estate projects. And I think that's one of the things that brings people there is what used to be really affordable. It's not so affordable anymore, but what you could afford coming from Chicago or LA or New York or wherever they're coming from allowed them to really establish, a forever family estate.
Yeah.
And so we're tasked with large projects,
Yep.
but
And,
it's great.
and I think that speaks to why Modern Luxury found it's the right time to expand, because it reflects Modern Luxury expansion. It reflects the engagement we have with our luxury audience and our affluent readers. We want to be where they live, they play, they spend, and the city has grown into true luxury market outside of the fun parts.
Sure.
All of you have seen the growth over the past several years. With the influx of new residential and businesses coming, how have the expectations and tastes of your clients evolved? Like, do they want, obviously they don't want the guitars on the wall, but like, how do you bring
Sometimes
a new...
they do, and that's what I was saying. We got to say no.
There's probably a really chic way to put those up on the wall,
Yeah.
and, but those are the kind of things that people think Nashville is, but I mean, the plantations and the Tudors, like, they're beautiful. So what's the one thing that you think, obviously you of course ask your clients what they want and all that. What's the starting point
Sure.
before you insert all your opinions?
I think for us, our process is we believe every home and every space should tell a story. And so kind of like I mentioned at the beginning, obviously we get to know our clients and their personalities, how they live and function day in, day out, their families. But then we kind of juxtapose that against a story. So we literally sit there and make like a little story for them. And the story gives them a bigger vision of what's to come. Like I said, we do a lot of new constructions, and so there isn't anything to start with. So this is kind of our starting point, our foundation, and we start with that, and then it gives the client something tangible to hold on to and to see and envision and feel, and kind of sometimes they might be poems. But again, a lot of the people in our town are creatives or understand creatives, and so I find that clients kind of attach to that, and then it also serves as a ramp for all the folks in the team, the contractor, the architect, the landscape designer, and all of these people to kind of say, oh, I can understand that, and to start visualizing it. And so we love that. We'll kind of come up with this concept and story and go from there.
Yeah, I think we do the same thing as far as pulling imagery, allowing the client to give us imagery, sorting through it, trying to cull through it to see what is it about this that you like, what is it about it that you are drawn to. And we're taking information in the back of our mind and going, okay, they want a very clean, bright aesthetic, or they want a textural. But I don't think it matters where you are. People are immensely exposed to design. All different looks.
Everywhere.
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 Yeah.
So it's not limited to us in Nashville or Atlanta. So people come with probably an initial, I would like this look. And I think what we try to do is break that down into elements, and those elements are the things that we try to give them without taking a look and just repeating it. Like, what is it about that look that feels like it connects with you?
Gotcha.
And then let's
I like it.
paint a
Love
new
that.
picture, but find those connective points.
Right, because it's not a hidden gem as it once was.
Right.
So I'm going to ask both of you, how do you think you're adding to the evolving aesthetic of these beautiful homes that you're designing?
Sure.
Is it still white, or you like the
Right.
colors?
Yeah.
How do you...
I think it's both. I mean, I see a reemergence of color. I'm sure you guys all do. It's in fashion. It's filtering through interiors, and we've seen it for a while. But I do think color is really fun. I have a lot of white in my house, so I like both things. I think it's important, though, as you've talked about, kind of what's happening in Nashville with the growth, that we remember the history and we don't lose the tradition. Yes, modern design is something that is what we're doing, I think, in the Nashville market as a firm, but I also am from the South, and then I moved to New York for design school, and so everybody in my design school said my designs were very traditional, and everybody in Nashville says my designs are very modern, and so it's kind of like a mix. And I think as all of these places go up, it's important to preserve the old, and obviously we do a lot of new construction, so then how does the new construction feel still relevant and keep a piece of the history and tradition? And so I think it's that, nuance of how do you balance the two. And I hope that as designers, and I think our design community is really in an effort to preserve some of that. So I would say that's probably, for me, one of the things that I want to leave a mark on. I hope I can do that.
I think it's interesting because for me, the renaissance of design has become very individualized. And maybe it's just how my firm approaches things, but the clients that we tend to get, we get into the nitty-gritty of what makes home for them. And I am very passionate about that process. I feel like I could do this for 40 years if I get to learn you and what makes you tick, and I get to pull out of you what then will become great design. And so for me, if I could say what mark would I like to leave, it's that every time that we finish a project, people walk through and they feel like, I don't know how you figured this out, but you figured me out in the process. And that means that we get to design in, cottage, we get to design in modern, we get to design in all different arenas, and we immerse ourselves in the creativity that works for that family. To me, that makes it so much more interesting than coming to me for a look that I'm gonna put out there.
Right.
I'm not that cool. I don't feel like I need to make a statement with a look that I'm set to create.
Right. There's a cluster of y'all's work up here, and it's interesting because when you get a client and they're like, I want modern, you're like, well, what does modern mean to you? Because we all use these words, but it could be something completely different in somebody's head.
And different between husband and wife, or
Yeah, exactly.
I can
partners
tell
or
you that from
whatever.
experience. Yes. The things that he wanted, I was like, really? That's what? Okay, you win on that one. Everything else I got. All right, let's dive into more of your all's creative process. Nashville, it's a city of storytellers and dreamers. We're all welcome, and they say music is a universal language, but in the industries and the worlds that we live in, storytelling's through our creative and spoken through design. Brad, this is one of your kitchens. I mean, I see modern, warmth, but home. And I think that's what you both are great at, is like, I want to live there. It looks homey. Like, it's not something that's going to go out of style and have to be redone. Obviously, that's the goal. Like, maybe in 5 and 10 years we redo it. But like, tell us a little bit about this project, and what did the client say, oh, this would be my dream kitchen. I really want it to be black and natural.
This is an interesting one because it's the perfect example of a husband and wife that were completely on different pages.
Oh, let's dive into that.
She wanted like earthy California modern, and he wanted
like what earthy California modern? What does that even mean?
Well, I would take that as probably lighter wood tones, gauzier fabrics, linens, natural materials, and he wanted it to look like he was in a fine hotel. And he wanted everything slick and modern.
Nothing on the counters.
Yeah. So we had to make choices along the way to try and find a middle ground for both of them. So we have, if you could see the rest of that room, it spills over into the living room, and we have sheer drapes running all along the view out to their infinity pool up on the hill with unbelievable views of the hills. It's an incredible space, but we did infuse softer, organic touches throughout, which felt like right for her. But we kept the lines clean, we kept the details clean, so that it felt like it worked for him.
Still happily married, living there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to share some insight about your creative
Yeah,
process
sure.
when it comes to maybe
Yeah,
not same page
definitely.
on wife
Yeah.
and husband?
Gosh, put on the therapist
Therapy hat, right?
It's so true. Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, it's understanding both how they live and what the family is like, or if it's husband and wife or partners, you've got to understand what that dynamic is, and then trying to figure out what that style is, what we need to bring in, what type of elements. And going back to the story, you know, I think I had a client whose best friends came in town. She was in Chicago and moved to Nashville to move her family for more land and a bigger yard and, you know, a bigger home and good schools. And when her Chicago friends came in, they said, gosh, you know, your house, it looks like you. And I think that's one of the best compliments somebody could give us as designers, because we want these homes to reflect our clients, like you mentioned, Brad. And so, you know, I am also not that interesting. And so really I want these spaces to feel like our clients. So it goes back to this story and, you know, did we meet the story, which is our client's story, every, you know, part of the way, through the fabric, through the materials, through the way it works, through the artwork, through the decor. And so hopefully we do that. I think that's ultimately what
It's
we
interesting that you bring up story, because I was talking through some of these questions with my team and just kind of off the cuff thoughts about it. And I said, you know, I feel like I'm a ghostwriter in a story. And really, the interesting person is the client, their home, how they live, all the things that make the story interesting. And I'm the ghostwriter. I'm there to make sure it all comes together and it all becomes something that's palatable, that people enjoy. And like that concept felt very like appropriate for the job that we do.
When you have clients maybe like Chicago to Nashville, do they bring anything with them? Or is it just like clean slate?
It is a clean slate.
That's-
I kind of like to figure out how long, what their expectations are. This client's home was finished and then they moved. It was actually in the crazy of COVID. And so I said, you need to bring your beds and your couches, and they will be temporary because we won't have your things. So, but I have a client right now who, you know, is so eager to purchase things. She bought a house, she's moving in. We're gonna do a big renovation actually on it. And she's like, but I've always loved this dining table. And I'm like, we haven't created a story yet for you. What if it doesn't match? You know, just don't waste your money, just hold. So, you know, there's temporary beds that are put up, and she's moved a few of her things from New York, but it's just important to wait to do it all at the same time, because even the smallest details, Brad can speak to the details, and, you know, I think it's all those details that come together to bring the project together.
Yeah. We were talking about earlier about how design is more accessible than ever. It's everywhere. People think, I mean,
AI.
Oh gosh.
AI can't do what we do.
I know they can't, but they could, render it something fast.
As we sit here today inside ADAC, you know, the Southeast's largest collection of luxury furnishings, I would love to hear some of your go-to places here, your little design secrets when you are trying to build that story and being that ghostwriter for your clients. Once you have all their knowledge, you know what they want.
Sure.
Where are your go-to sources of inspiration? And maybe it's not a particular showroom, or is there somewhere that you like to start? If you want to call out a few favorite showrooms in ADAC, I won't be mad.
Okay.
I noticed a
Love
few
it.
made goods.
I
in
love
there,
made
think.
goods.
Yeah,
I
know.
do love made goods. I think Made Goods has some great statement pieces, and also pieces that are just unique, that I don't think they create multiples. I think there's a limit on Made Goods, or is that Interiors? I can't remember. But I do like that it feels very boutique, and there are unique designs and different things that I think this room actually was designed, a lot of this home was designed to feel fashion forward, like an outfit almost. And so Made Goods, I think some of these pieces were like the earrings that we would put on, you know.
Love that.
And I love Romo, I love Cravat. I mean, gosh.
It's interesting because you literally, the picture on the left
Yes.
was gorgeous, and then I was like, oh, that teal room is off to the right. It's the
It
dining room.
is.
And like it just
It goes
beautifully
together.
goes.
Thank you.
I loved it. And then I saw a pair of Gucci and all that. I was like,
I know.
this looks like a little fashion setup here.
It is.
Beautiful.
The woman was truly a fashionista. I wish that I fit in her shoes because she had so many beautiful shoes.
And I think that's where people forget that luxury, like fashion and design, it all goes together, right? It goes hand in hand, whether interior designers are taking inspiration from the runway or fashion designers are taking inspiration from beautiful wallpaper.
Right.
It all goes, beautiful is beautiful,
Yeah.
right?
It is.
You know what's awesome about ADAC is we do designs all over. And so, you know, I love when we do beach houses, we were doing a lot of pallet check and Made Goods and whitewashed items. And, you know, we can go to Moatar for a one-of-a-kind rug, or go to R. Hughes for some
Love R.
funky moment that's supposed to be the jewel in a space. Or we go to our classic fabric showrooms, and it's just, you got to look through and find that right fabric. You know, having all of those options, depending on if you're doing a traditional or modern or a beach house or a lake house. You know, there's all the different places that you can go to find the right items.
True.
Your Nashville clients, mostly probably, the majority of them have secondary homes. Are they beach, mountain? Where's their secondary location? Because I mean, in Nashville, like you're a little landlocked, you got lakes.
You are. There are lakes.
But is it beach? Is it mountain? Is it, what is it?
It's a little bit of both.
Is it?
Yeah, I think most of them have been beach homes, like 30A. But I've had the opportunity to do a couple lake houses recently out of state. And you know, it brings a different type of relaxation.
Yeah.
You know, summer relaxation is fun relaxation. A lake house or a mountain home tends to be a little bit more
I think
cozy.
it depends on the person.
It does.
It really does.
I mean, how many people go, I'm a beach person or I'm a mountain person? You know,
Right.
it definitely depends.
Beach,
Toes in the
for
sand all day
sure.
long.
100%.
Get me in the
Beach.
mountains. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Love it.
we'll talk later. What do you guys think is a big catalyst that put Nashville on the map? Obviously, the music and the fun, but really started gaining a lot of attention a couple years ago. Everyone's going there.
Sure.
What do you think was the big thing that
Wow.
made it such,
A destination.
yes. For you guys,
The
it's not a
Bachelorettes,
destination.
I hate saying that.
Yeah.
We won't bring up the infamous,
No, it was
Viral
interesting when we had the downturn when you started your business.
Right.
Nashville somehow was a bubble, and we did not dip. In fact, the design firm that I was working with at the time, they had just put up a bunch of high-rise condos downtown, and so we pivoted from doing single-family homes to doing penthouse units or whatever downtown, and that kept us going. But the Nashville bubble didn't burst. And so it's like we had a head start coming out of that downturn, and developers just poured into the city because it was a good bet. You know, they were looking at it and going, okay, this city remains stable.
Right.
And then it just kind of went crazy from there.
Sure.
It just like developed every single square inch.
Cranes everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to have a website that was the Crane Watch, and there was like 17 cranes over,
It's crazy.
you know, downtown
yeah, I
area.
went about 6 years ago just to see what the hype was about. You know, did the whole like
Downtown?
Yeah.
Broadway.
you know, it was a good birthday trip. And then I went for another girls trip and did like the outside and went to all the other places where you could have like a cocktail like in a real glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fancy Nashville, and it is beautiful.
It is
beautiful.
beautiful.
Just like Southern, Southern hospitality, right?
Sure.
We're also
not
a very Instagrammable city, and this is the world that we live in today, you know, so I think as bachelorettes think that it's a great place to go and they see a TikTok or they see an Instagram, it just means more come,
Right.
you know, so we're in the cool zone right now. Who knows how long that will last, but
It's true. I almost feel like, and y'all correct me, I feel like when Nashville, the show, came out, I feel like all eyes kind of came to, not all eyes, but a lot of eyes came to Nashville. And I think from there, that just like was like a propeller catalyst to some of the growth. And I think it was just timing. I think COVID had a big part to play. Everybody wanted home more. They were spending money on home, and you get a lot more bang for your buck in Nashville than you do in all of these large cities. And it was one of the cities that had a creative industry, and so there are more, you know, producers and folks in the music industry who would shift from New York and Memphis or wherever in LA and start studios in Nashville, and a lot of them are home studios, and Music Row is, you know, everything is home. So I think that brought a lot of growth. And then I do think that there's also the entertainment industry, and we have the ability to have film and, you know, all of that. So it did, I think, help our market for sure.
I mean, it's not a renaissance for you guys, but I feel like the Nashville, it's just getting started. And I think you guys have your aesthetic, and you know what you're true to, and you're going to stay true to the design, because you guys are, I mean, just the images that we've seen, they're gorgeous. I'm going to end with one fun question, and then we can open up the floor for questions before we go have our little Southern throwaway, little hurricane party maybe. It could be sunny outside. We don't know.
Who knows?
All right, you guys ready for the fun question?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm assuming you guys like country music. Seeing as y'all are Music City Muses, if you could design a one room inspired by your favorite country song and or artist, which one would it be, and how would you translate that space for them?
oh wow, it's loaded.
It is.
Loaded.
There's so many options. Do you have anybody in mind?
Or
Well, I mean, if I could work with Dolly, that would be amazing, but I think everyone would say
what
that.
would her room look like? Working 9 to 5, that girl.
I would bring out my inner pink, you know, it's just,
Pink everywhere, bedazzled.
you know, it's interesting, a lot of, you've probably worked with country artists, I've worked with country artists. Because we have so many large properties that they're buying, a lot of people have been doing party barns, and
On their property?
on their property.
Really?
Like an entertaining barn.
Okay.
And like fully outfitted with the bar and everything. And I think that would be a blast to do. I don't know that I have a specific person that I would want to.
Hot pink barn. I see
Hey,
it.
let's do
I
a hot
see it.
pink
I mean,
barn.
that could be fun.
That could be super fun.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, my kiddos love a good Taylor Swift. I feel like, I don't know what era I would design.
Oh, well played.
But
Well played.
she's always been one of those folks that I feel like would be fun to design for, because I think she's a good mix of modern and Southern tradition. I don't know how I would design her place. I'd have to create a story, maybe a song. I would not sing it. I'd let her sing it, but.
Or him.
Friends in
Yes,
low
we could-
places, you know. I mean, we could
Exactly.
start throwing some out.
I love it.
Maybe like a reputation.
Reputation.
Yeah,
It's coming.
it's so true.
You heard it here first, people. It's
That's
coming.
right. I
A
love
red
it.
room.
A red room. Red is coming back. Never thought.
And
I'd
it's a
say it.
Kansas City troop. Okay, I know.
It's true.
I know.
So we would bring
Everyone do.
color. We'd bring color for
You
sure.
can color.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Maybe anyone have questions? Tell us their favorite country song and. Nobody, come on, y'all.
Somebody's
right
pointing,
here.
and I
Any
Got a,
question?
got a lady.
Thank you so much.
Aw.
Welcome to the South. Well, another South. Like, the question I want to know is, what particular landscapes in Nashville do you feel that a lot of interior designers get inspiration from in creating designs that are authentically, you can look at that and say, well, that's definitely an interior design from Nashville. What particular landscapes, natural scapes, or anywhere, especially if you're talking about music. And I'm sure a lot of artists go into the earth and go into the land to create. So thank you.
I think something that's when I think of landscape, it's one of my favorite places to go in Nashville. It's Radnor Lake. Do you go there? There are homes that are kind of around it, and it's a very hilly part. When my stepmom came to Nashville the first time, she was like, wow, there's a lot of hills here. Everybody thinks it's pretty flat. And Radnor is one of those areas that it just speaks Nashville to me. We have tons of, I think Nashville has a better fall than Atlanta does. And so the fall in Nashville, there's just bright colors all throughout Radnor Lake, and there's a big loop that you can do. And it's just one of those places that's untouched. And so
it's still a little hidden gem there still?
it is, yeah. And there are a lot of people who support Radnor Lake to keep it how it is. I also think of Leaper's Fork, which is, I love Leaper's Fork too. That's another area of town. A lot of country musicians have tried to protect that land from getting developed. You see tons of farmland. We've worked on a lot of homes out there that it's just green, lots of straw rolled up, straw bales, and beautiful barns that are just still standing with, big flags on them. So I think those are two landscapes in my head that speak truly Nashville to me.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lack of formality. There's like a natural aesthetic, I think, because we have so many rolling hills with grasses, stone walls with the stacked stone on the top. So most of our projects are including some sort of stacked stone on fireplaces on the exterior of the homes, because it feels like it grounds itself with the land. And then, probably not doing very formal gardens, a little bit more natural grasses.
The level of craftsmanship is pretty impressive in these photos. Has that always been in Nashville, or are you guys finding yourself pushing the envelope?
Oh,
It's funny, to go back to one of the questions earlier about one of the challenges is, with our boom of growth in Nashville, what I have found is a lot of spec builders are now custom builders because they can take on a multi-million-dollar project. And you get into that project and you realize the level of craftsmanship is just not there. And so that is not something that has always been there. I think the people that have been custom builders in the city for 20-something years, they have their own crews, they have their own trim guys, they have their own people that accomplish a high-level design. And so I think it's vetting some of those projects to kind of know how long they've been in the custom business.
sure.
Because I did a project, and it was actually, my clients were the developer, but they developed multifamily homes, and so then they had their team as the builder. And man, the wife was not happy because the level of craftsmanship was just not what they wanted, but they were using their own family business to do it.
Yeah.
And so we really had to ride the project to get it to the right finish line, but that's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak into that same thing. I think that's the challenge. That was my answer, was to get the good craftsmen and architects and things like that. You just have to wait, because it's easy for, like I said about my client who wants to jump and just get that furniture. It's easy to jump because there's everybody, I feel like, is becoming designers or builders and contractors in Nashville. And so I think it's difficult to wait for the good ones. But man, when you get the good ones, it's just so enjoyable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that it doesn't have hiccups, but I think we could all probably, we're probably all in this same industry. We could probably all say the same thing.
It creates a hole for small projects. So we like to have a client and hopefully keep them for life, which means they come back several years later and they want to redo a single space, remodel a bathroom, maybe they saved it for a phase 2, and now we no longer have the budget to bring in the builder. And so now I'm like, who's my plumber, who's my trim, who's my painter? And I don't have it, because most of the projects that we do,
I'm the same.
we're with a builder, it's seamless, they have their team, we just basically make sure that the intent of the design is there. And so when you get into the smaller projects, sometimes I feel just lost, because I want the same level of craftsmanship even if we're doing something small. So that is a challenge, because it feels like the best craftsmen are kind of aligned with a specific builder.
That's a great point. Any other questions? Yep.
I have a little bit of a story before my question. I used to work for a home builder in Virginia. We built cottages at first and then went more modern. And as we went more modern, the level of trim details decreased rapidly. And a lot of our buyers would come in like asking for more trim. And some of my coworkers would be like, oh, but we're not like really a southern builder, like trim's more southern. And I'm like, is it though? But what's your idea of, you know, the level of trim? There's a lot of trim in some of the pictures that you showed. Like, how do you find that balance, and is it a southern element or not?
Yeah. I don't know if it is a southern element. I think we have amazing trim workers in Nashville. I do think there is a certain degree that when you do modern design, it's almost harder to lose the trim, because you have to execute everything plumb. And so I feel like, you know, if I am doing trim in a more modern home, it does tend to be a little bit more simplistic, but sometimes that doesn't always mean that it's easier. And so I think it's important to have a really good trim carpenter. I don't know if that really answered your question, though.
I think some of it is also very personal to the client that we're working with. And so that whole initial get to know you, on board, get essence of what you like. Sometimes people are very clear, like, I do not like a drywall ceiling with a drywall wall. I don't like the way that looks. Like, okay, we're building a very modern home. And so then we have to either prove to them why it's the right decision, or we have to find creative ways to kind of answer that concern in a very thoughtful way that still feels modern. But I would say for the most part, people like well-executed, even if it's subtle and small in scale, but quality trim.
Thanks.
Any last questions?
Well,
Yep. Okay. Oh, you're going to test me here. I can get there.
Get your steps in.
So thank you. This was actually one of the presentations that I really wanted to hear. I love Nashville.
They saved the best for last.
I'm sorry?
They saved the best for last.
Well, of course. Of course. I'm a person who loves old Nashville.
Yeah.
Old country, old stories. And what is your feeling about losing those stories in Nashville? And you had talked some about preserving the story of Nashville.
Sure.
Because I find that conflict in Atlanta as well.
Yeah.
We're losing our stories. So I see a lot of similarity. The last time I was in Nashville, a lot of similarity in the growth, and it feels unbridled in some sense. What are your thoughts on that? And how do you think Nashville's going to handle that in the future?
It's like a shot to the heart every time you see a home leveled and two tall skinnies go on the same lot. And it's the same exact look, and the two houses are mirror of each other, and they didn't even make decisions to make them unique from the other. And it just happens over and over and over again. And I'm not sure that we can stop it. So where I feel like I have a piece is to take what comes into my sphere and make sure that we're writing a really beautiful story that has character and that has intentionality to it. I don't want to work on a tall skinny that a developer is trying to just make a buck and be done. I want to work on the ones where they want to pour their heart into it. And so we try to figure out in our interview process what type of home this is for people. And I think, we've talked about it before, Natalie and I. We're blessed that where our firms are at the time, we can take those. And then the person who calls and says, I'm ready to start next week, and
Cute.
yeah, it's cute. But I think it's just, if you get the chance with one home at a time, trying to make sure that you're preserving something, even if it's just the story of that family.
Yeah, I think that there is a reaction that's happening right now in the creative realm, architects, designers, other folks who just are in it, people who are in the music industry that are supporting the preservation. There's a Preservation Society of Nashville that just launched a little bit ago. I think they're maybe a year old or so. And some of my friends are a part of it. And I think supporting entities like that so that we don't sadly just start to become Atlanta #2. I love Atlanta, but one of the things that didn't want to make me come back to Atlanta is that you'd have to drive 45 minutes, and I'm a terrible driver. So you'd have to drive 45 minutes just to go from my sister's house to my best friend's house, and then another 45 back to my house. And so I hope that there is, Nashville is growing, so it's inevitable, but I hope that, places like the Preservation Society, we can try and keep some of the history. I think the Ryman Auditorium, there was a Preservation Society, I learned, that kept that piece of land, and then yet all around it, if you haven't seen the Ryman Auditorium, it's this beautiful church that's surrounded by all of the sky rises, and so I hope that we can try and do some of that so that there are still these pockets that don't just get torn down.
It's interesting in building and design, though, it is a pendulum that swings, so it's reactionary. So we level a bunch of character, we put homes up with no character, and then we swing way over and we clamp down and we put all these rules. And I'm doing a project in Belmead right now, which is an older area of town, established area of town, and some of the limitations of what we can and can't do don't actually make sense. It's just reactionary to not having rules previously and people doing whatever they want. And so it's always like trying to find that healthy balance where it's not either the Wild West or you can't even make logical decisions on a project.
Okay. Yep. Well, thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
It was really fun helping us launch into our Nashville market.
Yes.
Hopefully everyone can come join us at Renaissance Town Bath for a little Southern soiree.
Let's go over to Renaissance Town
Let's
Bath.
go party.
So that you all know, because I believe it is still raining, although there are no windows in here, so I'm just going to assume. We do have umbrellas, and so if you exit out this door over here, grab an umbrella, maybe share a little bit, and let's go over. Brave that rain and have some cocktails and talk with our panelists. All right, thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Well done.